Hi, this is Russell Phagan with SinisterRifleman.com.
And I'm Glen Stilson with Independence Training.
In this video, we're going to talk about some practical applications of the Kel Tec KSG shotgun.
Now, one of the greatest advantages to the KSG shotgun is its extremely compact size. You can see here the difference between the Kel Tec KSG and a normal Remington A70, both with 18.5-inch barrels. However, the difference is the KSG's overall length is about 10 inches shorter. Now, where that size advantage really comes into play is if you had to use the KSG in a tight quarters situation inside a building, something for home defense or for law enforcement. And you can see when I put the shotgun up to my shoulder, I'm then going to draw my handgun. You can see that the overall length is roughly about the same. Now, a pretty major advantage that the KSG has over a traditional pump-action shotgun is just the amount of capacity that it has for ammunition. This shotgun right here currently has 15 rounds in it, whereas this shotgun only holds 7 rounds. Now, it does have a side saddle on the side as well as the buttstock for a total of 19 rounds, but still over half the ammunition is on the shotgun. All 15 of those rounds are in this shotgun, still in a compact package.
In the part 1 video, I basically showed using the secondary tube of the KSG as a reload method rather than making advantage of the ability to carry both types of rounds on board, buckshot and slugs. Glen's going to talk to us about the advantage of having both types of rounds in the gun ready to go.
Now, the great thing about the KSG is because of its dual magazine tubes, I can literally put slugs in one magazine tube and buckshot in another magazine tube, and each magazine tube holds 7 rounds, which is more than a traditional pump-action shotgun would hold at any rate. So you've got a great capacity of ammunition and the ability to select between 2 different loads.
If you do choose to load the KSG with slugs in one tube and buck in the other, it is critical that you keep them in their respective tubes the same way all the time, so you do not lose track of which tube is which under stress. It's a good idea to keep the selector in the middle position and select whichever tube you want to use after grabbing the KSG, so choosing ammunition type is a deliberate action. You can see there's cutouts in the tube that shows you that the magazine tube is loaded. They're all the way at the back, and there are some up at the front underneath the forend if you have the forend to the rear too. In the previous video, I showed how to do an emergency reload by feeding the shells into the tube, then cycling one into the chamber. In using the gun, Glen has found a different method of doing an emergency reload by feeding a round directly into the chamber.
Now, just as with a traditional pump-action shotgun, when you run out of ammunition, you can simply load a round directly into the chamber, work the pump forward, and fire that round. And you can continue that as many times as needed until you have an opportunity to load the magazine tube. The KSG is very similar in that I can single load rounds in an emergency situation. So I fired, and however, there's no ammunition. So I can now take a single round, push it past the elevator arms, and then work the pump forward to be able to fire that round. And I can continue that as many times as needed. Doing a selective load or a slug changeover with a traditional pump-action shotgun is a fairly time-consuming process. I'm going to demonstrate 3 different ways that it can be done. Now, this is a universal method that can be utilized on any traditional pump-action shotgun as long as the magazine tube is downloaded by at least 1 round. Once you've got the shotgun up into play, in order to get the round out of the chamber and load a selective round, you've got to take your selective round, load it into the magazine tube, extract the round in the chamber, and then the round that you loaded into the tube will then be loaded into the chamber and can fire. Now, another fairly universal method that can be used with most pump-action shotguns is the dump-to method. And once I've got the shotgun up into play, I'm going to extract the round that's in the chamber. Then I've got to roll the second round out, then put in my selective load, work the pump forward, and then that round can be fired. Now, a method that can be used that is specific to the Remington 870 shotguns that allows me to only have to lose one round is when my shotgun is up into play, partially pull back the action, then using the thumb of the support hand, click the round back into the magazine tube, kick that other round out, put in your selective load, and then that load can be fired. So with a traditional pump action shotgun, you saw me demonstrate a couple of different methods on how to select a specific load. I'm now going to demonstrate how to do that with the KSG shotgun. I'm going to simulate firing a buckshot round and then simulate needing to switch over to a slug. So once the shotgun's up into play and I fired my round and fully cycled the action, and now I need to switch over to a slug, I simply reach back and changed over to the slug tube. I'll then need to cycle the action again to kick out the buckshot, but now I've loaded slug and will be firing slug until I switch back to the buckshot. Now, in that example of a slug changeover on a traditional pump-action shotgun, you can see some of the things that can possibly go wrong. None of that was done on purpose. It's just what happens when you're trying to perform actions like that quickly. First of all, the second round that I was trying to dump out of the chamber actually got hung up in my ejection port, and I had to manually remove it in order to make room for the slug. Then I missed my first slug shot. So in order for me to be able to put a second slug shot on target, I had to do an entirely second slug changeover, which takes that much more time. Now, what we've shown there is that the KSG still kind of holds the advantage with the capability to fire multiple slugs very quickly and accurately. And while you could load several slugs into the magazine tube of a traditional pump-action shotgun, that's still more handwork and more coordination and more time that's going to be needed in order for you to accomplish the same thing that you can do in the KSG with the flip of a switch. Now, some of the things that you may want to consider looking at to add or accessorize your KSG with, number one is a red dot optic. Now, we put this micro dot on for today's testing purposes, and honestly, it is probably, I think, one of the greatest things to add to any shotgun, but especially a shotgun like this that's already pretty much set up for it. I don't have to add any extra rails or mounts. The KSG comes optic ready. Now, another big advantage that I would like to add to a KSG if I was going to be using it in my home would be some hand stops on the pump itself. Again, it's already ready for accessories on the bottom because of the railed section that right now just being covered up by ladder sections. But I would put a hand stop on the front as well as a hand stop on the back so that it keeps my hand from moving too far forward or too far back, either running the risk of injury or running the risk of damaging the reliability of the platform.
Thanks for watching. You can view more of my videos at sinisterrifle.com.
be sure to visit Independence Training at independencetraining.com.